Hi everyone, welcome back to Novel Nomad and welcome to my Adelaide Writers Week TBR for 2021. If you are not aware, Adelaide Writers Week is a literary festival that runs from the 27th of February to the 4th of March. It usually runs from a Saturday to a Thursday and every year is getting bigger and bigger, which is more and more wonderful. But obviously with COVID this year, it is going to look a little bit different. There's going to be COVID safe check-ins and everything like that to be able to go to the festival. But I am still so excited that this year, once again, we get to have a literary festival in Australia and in Adelaide and celebrating all these wonderful books. So, obviously, with everything being a little bit different with COVID, all the international authors that will be in attendance, you can go onto the website and see the full schedule. I won't be going through the list because there's too many amazing people and I want to get to the books. Anyway, so you can go on there, see all the people that are attending. The international authors will be attending via live stream. They'll be interviewed. You can watch quite a few of them online at home. You can usually pay however much you like and get the live stream. So that's really, really cool. It's really wonderful to get so many people involved who usually don't get to come. So I've divided my TBR into possibly 3 groups. One will be the international authors who are probably a little bit on the back burner because I won't be seeing them, but some of them I really want to read. So I see how I go. I might throw 1 or 2 of them in, but they're definitely on the TBR just in case I feel keen to read one of them. Second is authors, Australian authors primarily, because they'll all be the ones who will be in attendance. Australian authors who I won't be able to get to see because unfortunately I am still working during the weekdays. So I will be mainly attending during the weekend and for some of the evening events. So unfortunately that means I'm not going to be able to see all the authors that will be in attendance for Writers Week this year. But needless to say, I still have quite a lengthy TBR pile for all the authors that I will be seeing over those 2 days and a few evening events. First off the list is one I'm most excited to get reading, and that is Flames and also The Rain Heron. Flames is Robbie Arnaud's debut novel and sounds amazing. I've been recommended this so many times by so many people and I cannot wait to read it. Next is Robbie Arnaud's The Heron. This is his second book. I have got the proof copy given to me by a very lovely friend who's also will be attending the Writers Week, so I will be able to read both of them. But I think Flames is going to be my absolute top priority to get off my TBR first. Next we have a bit of an Australian classic that I've never read, and I think it would be quite interesting because one of my friends discussed it with me when I was telling her about all the authors in attendance, and she sent me some interesting essays to read after I finished the book, and that is Kate Grenville's The Secret River. This is such a beautiful canon edition, and I really thoroughly am fascinated to read this. There's a TV series that came out, I never saw that, so I'm going into this nice and blind. But it'll be interesting to see how this is written, and because it was very acclaimed, but I'll see how it holds up. Next on the list is Miranda Riro's Stone Sky Gold Mountain. This is kind of like All Those Hills of Gold, but like an Australian Queensland version. So Miranda Riro, she wrote The Fish Girl, which I've read before, which is stunning, and that's kind of like a Southeast Asian retelling of Wide Sargasso Sea, and it's really fascinating to read that. But this I think will be really interesting. It's about two siblings, Chinese migrant siblings, who come over to the goldfields up in Queensland during the 1800s, and what they basically have to do and how they struggle through this existence, and how they struggle through this existence without their language, without their very minimal culture, and like fleeing the situation that they did in China. So I'm very excited to read this one. It sounds brilliant, but then I also want to like read this one and then read All These Hills of Gold as well, just to do like a bit of comparison. Next is one by a local author that I have not read yet, but I definitely want to, is Things She Owned by Catherine Tomiko Argyle. So this one is basically about a woman whose Japanese mother died, and she leaves her all these little artifacts and things that she collected throughout her life, and as the daughter goes back and rediscovers her mother through the things that she left behind. And I think it's just going to be absolutely beautiful. It like traverses Japan and London. Next is one that got a lot of hype last year in Australia, and that is Kokomo by Victoria Hannon. Now she won the Unpublished Manuscript Award from the Victorian Premier's literary awards. My goodness, that's a mouthful. And it's more of a look at this young woman who comes back from London because her mother has finally left the house. And so I think it'll be quite excellent to read this one, to get a really different, more modern voice coming into it. And I think having like a woman in her 30s and having this life experience and struggling with grief and love and connectivity is really good. I'm really excited to read this one. And it's set in Melbourne. I haven't been there in such a long time. I usually at least go once a year, so I feel like it would scratch an itch. Next we have The Song of the Crocodile by Nadie Simpson. I am really excited to read this one. It's a multi-generational Indigenous story, and that's all I needed to sell me. But it has got rave reviews from some of my very trustworthy Bookstagram friends, so I am very excited to read it. Nadie Simpson herself is an Indigenous author, and one I'll be very interested to see. Apparently it is beautifully written, so it's up there. It's definitely up there on the list. Okay, another Indigenous story. This one's probably, I think it's a local author as well, and that is Where the Fruit Falls by Karen Wilde. This was a winner of the 2020 Dorothy Hewitt Award for the unpublished manuscript, and it's just great to see that these books that win these unpublished awards go on to be raved about, because I have a very good friend who just could not put this down, and she said it was one of the more beautiful books she's read this year so far. Basically, I'm very excited for every book, but also for this one. This one's probably going to be a bit more on the nose. It's The Animals in That Country by Laura Jean McKay. And this, I think, just recently won an award. I think it's the Victorian Premier's Literary Award, but also it's a pandemic book. So it was actually written obviously before the pandemic hit and published last year, but I think it's going to be one that's going to be very interesting to read, given all the current circumstances that we've been experiencing. So I will be very interested, and it's got such a great cover. Like, that's like a holographic kind of shininess, and it's just very cool, very interesting cover. I'm interested to read another pandemic book. I read one, a Margaret Atwood, when in March. That was very on the nose. So I'm interested to get back into one and kind of compare this experience again. Okay, the next part was books by Australian authors who I probably won't be able to see given my work commitments during Writers Week. First off, unfortunately, is Craig Silvey. He wrote Jasper Jones, which is highly acclaimed, and I got this as a special book swap for last Adelaide Writers Week. I did try to read this during Aussie April, and it just couldn't vibe with it, so I'm going to try again. But this has got a lot of acclaim. I'm really excited about reading this one. Not so much the latest one, Honeybee. I really just want to read Jasper Jones first and see how well I enjoy Craig Silvey's writing. I always think the writing's important, and as soon as you like really enjoy the writing, it just like flows so effortlessly. So yeah, so that one I probably won't be able to attend. Next as well is a biography. It's 14 by Shannon Lloyd. Shannon Lloyd came out as gay when he was going through, I think it was middle school or like upper primary, and during his 14th year, when everyone found out, he was horrendously bullied at school. So this is his story about how he survived that and the resources that he used in order to get through things like that, because unfortunately school is not always a positive place for everyone. And so I think this is going to be a very heartbreaking book, but unfortunately I won't be able to see it. I might be able to attend. It's just a bit too early in the evening for me to get there in time. Next one that I'm severely disappointed I'm going to be missing, because she's dead on in the morning when I won't be able to get there at all, and that is Cassandra Pipes on her history book of Trugani. Is following an Indigenous woman who used to like show people around her local area in like early settlers in Tasmania, and Tasmania is one of the places known in Australia for absolutely horrific massacres of Indigenous populations there, to the point where they're nearly basically extinct. So it's just, she found that this woman who Cassandra Pipes, her family was one of the original like settlers in there. So she has this family history with this Indigenous woman who was very closely linked with the family, and so she basically finally wants to give that woman a voice. But unfortunately, I will not be able to get to her session, so this is very low on the TBR pile. Lastly is the pile of books that are on my TBR pile by the international authors, some of which I will be able to view the session, but I won't be meeting them in person. So yet again, I want to support authors that I can meet, can talk with, and if I can ask any questions of. So first off, Emily St. John Mandel is live streaming from Canada, and I still haven't read Station 11. I got partway through when I was traveling around Canada, but all the hiking got me so exhausted, so I still need to finish that one. And I did pick up a copy of Glass Hotel because I'm hopeful that I'll love this one. Next we have Entitled by Kate Mann. Now this is quite interesting. It's How Male Privilege Hurts Women. So once again, feminist non-fiction. I'm quite excited to read it. It was really hard to get this one in. The hardcover came out first, but then it was kind of short ordered. So it's coming out in paperback, but I managed to snag a copy from the local imprints booksellers. Next we have one that I am already currently reading. I'm reading it slowly because the writing is so beautiful. It deserves respect and slow read, and that is The Mountains Sing by, apologies for butchering this name if I do, Nguyen Phan Quay Mai, and it's set during the Vietnam War, set in Hanoi, and it follows this young family, this grandmother through her early life, and also she's telling her story to her young grandchild, and how so many lives have been lost in this fight for their country and their freedom for political choices and things like that. And it's just absolutely beautiful. The writing is exquisite. It's stunning. I highly recommend it. I'm enjoying this one immensely. And lastly, on my international authors is Natalie Byrne. She has written 1,000 Ships, which is a fiction book basically all on Helen of Troy. And then her other work is Pandoras Jar, which looks at the women in Greek myths. So this one I know has been getting a lot of hype recently. It's a new release, but this one was highly recommended by a very good friend of mine, and so I just really want to read her work and like slip into more ancient fiction settings, because I think more recently I've mainly just been going back to 1800s and reading my classics, but I feel like I need to go back into more antiquity and really enjoy that kind of sinking into that historical setting. Alright, so if you have read any of these books, or the ones that I will not be able to attend, please let me know and give me any recommendations. I am honestly going to just be piecemealing my way through this in the next month. But I cannot wait for the festival to start. I'm going to be posting up some mini reviews as I read the books. I did that. I think I did that last year or the year before, and it was very fun to kind of just collate my thoughts on each book as I read them. And let me know if you'll be in attendance at the festival, or if you are planning to live stream any of the interviews, and I'll see you next time. Bye!